Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in to our Xano webinar, where we're going to be covering MCP for building connected AI agents. My name is Cameron Booth. I'm in developer education, and I'm accompanied by Daniel Petro, developer advocate. Setting the stage, we're going to be working with Xano, which is, of course, a tool to build world-class software with trusted security and easy deployment. We offer the ability to save your data in a Postgres database, connect your systems together with complex workflows, and, of course, build tools for AI agents. And, well, combining all three to allow you and your users to have a truly enhanced workflow and application to use. Now, we're going to go ahead and start by sort of doing a high-level overview of what MCP for agents is. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. We're going to be learning about the benefits of AI agents. We'll be looking at when we do use MCP for these AI agents and how we can take everything that we have already and how we can go ahead and leverage that existing functionality inside our workflows, inside our applications, inside our backend. On the right-hand side, you'll see this image here, the ZanoBnB UI. We're going to be playing off of the idea of an Airbnb-like system, where a user will go ahead and submit a complaint, and we'll use an AI agent to facilitate this entire interaction. To illustrate how, well, now you don't need to click a bunch of buttons. You can go ahead and use natural language to go ahead and accomplish these tasks. And that leads us to the human tooling aspect. Now, every website and every application we've used so far has relied on buttons, forms, and a bunch of screens to trigger actions with APIs that take data from the backend and then put it on the front end. So it's a lot of you or your users clicking deliberately, trying to accomplish particular objectives. And that's human tooling. Now, we're going to bridge that gap, or we're actually going to take that and abstract it. So now no longer will you need to necessarily click on all these buttons, submit these forms. You'll be able to use natural language with your MCP or agent and actually accomplish all of the same things, but more easily. Now, what do we mean by AI agent? It's a pretty important distinction because we've had access to chatbots for a while now. Chatbots being more of this sequential logic based in a workflow where a developer typically will chain these logics or these elements together to accomplish and facilitate different outcomes. Whereas an AI agent is going to use that natural language that you or your user approaches with to accomplish, well, actions. It's going to take action and do things for us. So it's going to be based off of context and awareness of what your user or yourself is trying to accomplish. And it'll be able to, using this MCP or that Model Context Protocol, accomplish this for us. So what's changed? Daniel, I'm going to pass it over to you and love to know what has changed.
Awesome. Thank you, Cam. A lot has changed. And let me tell you, the possibilities that AI agents now have as a result of Model Context Protocol is truly just the beginning. So think of it like a customer support agent, right? Where the current AI chatbots might refer you to the documentation or like a Q&A or a blog post. But now the AI with these tools that give it hands and eyes to see and take action, they can go and surface that information about your account on your behalf. They're not going to either send you to a live customer support agent or to some documentation to go read. It'll actually go and surface that information for you or take action on behalf of the company on your account. So that is what I'm talking about when, what's changed here.
Exciting, exciting. So now no longer do you necessarily need to click these buttons, submit these forms. The MCP, the agent, will be able to do that all for you.
Exactly.
Awesome. Now, I'd love to see this in action. I'm sure all of our viewers would love to as well. So we'll go ahead and pass the controls over to you, and you'll be able to demo the ZanoBnB agent for us.
All right. So here we are inside our demo application, and I'm just going to go ahead and log in right here. I have my credentials already set, so I don't have to fumble on a keyboard in front of everyone. And all right, now we are inside our ZanoBnB application right here. and we don't have a current session, so I'm going to go ahead and start one. And as you can see, it already knows what my booking is right there. And I can go ahead and pop open the chat and go ahead and tell it my issue or whatever I'm trying to do. So in this scenario, I've actually booked a property, and it said that it should have a private pool. But in this situation, in this scenario, I'm a French speaker and the listing was in French. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it, I just checked into my property and it does not have a private pool. The Airbnb listing in French said it would. And when I arrived, it doesn't have it. And I'm just using my speech to text app here. And as you can see, it plugged it in there for me. And I'm going to go ahead and send that off to the assistant. Let's see what the assistant is going to come up with.
The fact we could just talk into it and it types it out for us, we're really living in the future. I love that.
Yeah, it's my preferred way of working now because I can speak so much quicker than I can type, and I can get my thoughts down even quicker.
Totally.
So this response right here, it's acknowledging that there was a mistranslation in the description, as you can see. It confirms that the property does not have a private pool, as stated in the French version. So it mentioned nearby public swimming options instead. So the agent right here is giving me two options available. Either I can stay at my current property and receive a credit, or I can relocate. So I actually think I'm interested in relocating because a private pool on the property is something I want on my vacation. So let's see if it can find any alternate properties for us. I'm interested in option 2. Can you please show me some alternate properties that have private pools?
And just to clarify, Daniel, this isn't a template. This isn't prompted necessarily. The agent's coming up with this dialogue and it's returning it to us in our chat, right?
Yes, correct. And we have instructed it with SOPs, so standard operating procedures that it should follow based off of our company's guidelines. So let's see, it gave me 2 alternate properties. Okay, this one has a private pool, great. And this other one also has a private pool, but honestly, I'm not happy with these locations. And the one that I already booked is in an awesome location. I think I'll just take the credit and do without the private pool this time. So I'll say, okay, thank you. I think I'll take the credit instead. And okay, as you can see right here, credit has been applied to my account, and I saw that flash here on the left. Awesome.
Fantastic. And again, no template, no actual us, instructing it to say these things. It's doing it all on its own volition, its own accord, and it's returning this information into the chat for us. It's
And that's the real power of equipping these AI agents with these tools to do things on our behalf.
It's really powerful. That's really exciting. So it's it's like a human in this case. It's no longer a chatbot based off these sequences of these flows. It's taking action and initiative based off the context, based off of things that it sees, based off of our SOPs that we've instructed. Of course, we let it know it should behave in a particular way, but it's not like actual logic, hard-coded, pragmatic. It's natural language that we're telling it how to operate and how to work.
Exactly. It's building out that logic on its own. It sees what tools are available to it. It kind of knows that it should probably look up like what we can offer the customer based off of our company rules, and then it's deciding what to do. It's giving the customer the options, and it's coming up with all of this on its own, confined within certain guardrails,
Yeah,
which are
certainly.
very,
And
very
so
important.
this is the power of the MCP, or the model context protocol. With the agent, it's able to understand everything and then contextualize it and work on, well, on its own, as we had said, volition, on its own accord. It does everything that it needs to, which is truly exciting. And so in this case, what we've seen here is that, somebody who has a property, they've surfaced their complaint, their issue that they've ran into. And in doing so, the agent said, okay, just like a real agent would, here, I've noticed these things. Yep, the description, it's incorrect. There is a mistranslation. Here's your credit. Or here, would you like to relocate? And we've exercised both options. We took a look at where we'd like to relocate, decided, well, that's not what we want. And now we have a credit applied to our account. We get to see that real time. Very exciting stuff. In the past, where it would be a bunch of button clicks, you'd have to wait in a queue probably 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe even longer. And then we have to, well, maybe we don't get the outcome that we want. Very exciting. I love how this has been demonstrated.
Agreed. I think this is really exciting for us as consumers, but also as builders.
Yeah, and that's the exciting part. You could use it as both. You, as a developer, as you're building out your app, or as even just an extension to your users so they can interface with, your MCP client, which is the front end, what you're actually experiencing as it communicates with the MCP server. Both are viable. And so that's, I think, what really sets the MCP protocol or the model context protocol apart from, anything else that we've previously seen. It's the fluidity that, for both the developer or for the consumer, how you can use it in your application. Cool. Let's go ahead and maneuver to the actual MCP sequence education, because we've seen this live demo, how it works and how everything interacts. We've seen the user on the front end use the MCP client to communicate with the MCP server, but how does it actually work? And that's the part that we want to go ahead and explore. Thank you, Daniel, so much for that demo. That was really exciting. We get to see how, again, the user is going to interact with the MCP client, which is then going to interact with the MCP server, return all of that necessary information. But behind the scenes, how does that actually work? And, well, like we had sort of said there, we have that human agent component, where the AI agent emulates the human, where we're able to accomplish all of the same things with an agent that a human would be able to do. Understand the context, know what to do, how to do it using these SOPs and guidelines, and also which tools to use so that it can execute, well, the procedures as intended. So what does that look like? We have tools to work with, your system's data. We have a way to discover these tools and instructions on how to use these tools. Your agent is going to be able to interact with that MCP server where this information lives, that based off of what we have in our MCP server, it'll be able to accomplish. Now, what that actually looks like. So how does that MCP client call a tool? And we have a diagram here that it sort of that illustrates here the MCP's communication with the MCP server. And we can see that it goes back and forth a handful of times. That MCP client is going to ask the server to list all of the tools. It's going to say, hey, you have all of the tools. What can I use? That MCP server is going to respond with all of the available tools, and that client there is going to then call the tools that it can use. Again, based off of that context, it's going to intelligently know, using an LLM of your choice, what to actually do, what tool to invoke. So it goes back and forth, and it's really only one call. You'll click a button, as you had seen in that demo. We go ahead and submit a chat message, and it does all of this very quickly behind the scenes. You don't have to set up all of this requests back and forth. So, well, what does that look like? And this is kind of the basis of it. We have all of these different tools that our MCP client is going to interact with. That MCP server returns all of the tools that it can use, and again, intelligently, that client is then going to use them. We can see here that we have 7 tools that we have used. We have the SOP lookup tools Daniel had mentioned. This is going to set the stage. This is going to set the guidelines for our agent to actually follow. We then have that property details tool, where it needs to confirm that the description, both English or French, that there is a mistranslation. And so that's exactly what it's done. It's returned the details of that property. based off of what it found, in this case, a mistranslation, it's then going to look up that policy. What can we actually do to remedy this situation? Do we give them a credit? Do we refund them? Do we move them to another location? And the sky's the limit, of course. As the developer, you get to decide what you actually want to implement and what you want to articulate to your agent as to what it can accomplish. Then after that, in which case we've said, well, we'd like to relocate, it's going to call that property search tool. It's going to find other options for relocation. It's going to look, in our case, for amenities or locations that have a private pool. We'll go ahead and present these options to our guests. They get to decide if they'd like a credit or if they'd like to move to a new listing. And then we selected that we'd like to use that credit, which we saw then went ahead and returned the credit to the user. The page refreshed. We got to see that that credit was applied to that user. And then lastly, we go ahead and notify the host. Hey, by the way, there's a mistranslation on your listing. In order to prevent other refunds and other credits, go ahead and consider updating that. And so what we've been able to do very quickly is have our agent use these tools with our MCP client, going ahead and facilitating that request using natural language to our MCP server, which then returns all of the necessary tooling and helps us decide what to actually do moving forward. So why top devs are choosing Xano for agentic tooling? Well, it's because you can build fast and you can build securely and in compliance, and truly you can deploy with ease. When you build fast with our visual editor, you're able to go ahead and rapidly change anything that comes up. You can go ahead and implement, you can go ahead and change. It's very, very, very fast. And then of course, with the security and the compliance, we offer the enterprise grade data protection. We have a bunch of certifications or certs that provide trust and instill that trust. And then, of course, very lastly, that deploy with ease. It's one click that allows you to launch and scale effortlessly. Very exciting. We've put a lot of work into being able to very easily and confidently develop with Xano. And with the new agentic tooling, our MCP server, you have the ability to experience Xano and the AI agent component, which makes it just that much better, that much more sensible to build with Xano. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to pass it back to Daniel. Daniel, we've used a handful of tools here to create the client and to allow it to communicate with Xano. Can you go ahead and just let our users know, anybody that's watching, sort of how this came to be, the process that we've implemented here?
All right, so here we are inside our N8N workflow, and this is just one way you can create an MCP client. And we chose to use N8M for this demo. And so let me quickly explain the difference between, I know it says MCP client right here, because yes, this is our client endpoint and our front end that is powered by the N8N chatbot. But these tools right here, think of this more as our MCP server that we've created and is hosted by Xano. And this green check mark with the 2, those are tool executions. So I'm going to go ahead and test this workflow real quick. And you can see this nice visual of how the AI agent is interacting with our MCP server on the Xano side. And you can see we executed that successfully, and it used 2 of the tools.
Awesome. So we get to see this visualization of that chat message being received, then an actual agent deciding what model to use, how to store that memory, and then actually making requests to the server via this MCP client node.
Exactly. And all this is pretty much an API that's communicating with Xano.
Awesome. And so we're able to actually see here a connection between both Xano and N8N. So you can go ahead and connect Xano to any kind of tooling, and in this case, an automation tooling to allow us to, create an MCP client, host it on a front end, and then communicate with Xano.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel, for this overview. The N8N, the client, being able to communicate with our server. And that leads us to the next point, the MCP server, the actual tooling. We've seen this MCP client with 2 successful tool executions. So it's communicated with our MCP server on Xano and executed some tools. let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So back on my screen here, as we had seen, we had the tools that were executed via that MCP client to our server. So let's have Daniel explain to us what that looks like on Xano's end here.
Here are our tools inside Xano. And if you remember just a few slides ago, Cameron went over all the descriptions of these tools and why we built them out to equip our AI agent with. And we aren't going to dive into them right now, but we will be going over it in depth in a video. So check that out.
Dina, do you want to go ahead and continue on talking about what this looks like, that backend tooling with Xano, and sort of just, I guess, really how we can visualize that here?
For sure. Yeah, all of this is kind of might be hard to grasp at first, but you can think of it as, really simple. If you're familiar with Xano, you can create a tool out of anything inside the function stack. But MCP servers can run a variety of different types of tools. Right now, the majority of them are either running internal or external APIs, which you can build out easily on Xano. And then there are others that can run, functions or execute certain type of logic or complete workflows. And then also what you saw in our example, the majority of our tools that we were using were connecting to our Xano database, but we could also connect to external databases outside of Xano and create tools out of those as well. And then lastly, you can also combine your server with other servers by creating your client API on Xano.
So you have the ability to kind of just do just about anything with Xano and our MCP servers. And just to make sure that I understand this correctly, as well as any of our viewers, what you're talking about, especially for like our external database connections, you could go ahead and make a request to like an Oracle database or anything else that exists outside of Xano. And you can use that data within Xano and the tooling therein, right, to accomplish things with your MCP server, right?
Exactly. And just to reiterate, when I talk about workflows, that could be anything from, some complex data analytics algorithm all the way to, a calculator function or whatever it is you want to give your AI agent access to.
Awesome. And so in our case, just that raising a complaint, like an amenity dispute, but it also extends just like asking the agent questions about your data, about maybe the top trending cohort or anything of that sort. Whatever your data looks like, we have the ability to accomplish with the MCP server. Is that right?
100%.
You've seen what's possible, and now in this next upcoming video, you'll see actually how we built it. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the toolings, the APIs, the functions, and all of the structure behind it, including all of the natural language prompts that we've set to instruct our agent on how to use our tools within our server. We'll go ahead and provide that link. It is right there for you to be able to access. So go ahead and give it a watch. It's definitely worth the time. Very exciting to be able to see how all of this works. And you can go ahead and copy that, replicate it, and implement it inside your builds. Now, we also have a very, very exciting Xano security event coming up on June 18th. It's going to be about security and AI agents and working with Xano. We've previously talked about the security that we offer here at Xano, ensuring that your application is secure. We're going to go ahead and extend that functionality to your AI agents so that you, as you develop, you can have confidence that you're doing it correctly, the right ways for you, your users, and anybody else that's going to be using your application. And so now we'll go ahead and take a couple moments and answer any of the questions that you may have about what we've talked about here today. Anything is viable, and Daniel and I would love to help answer. Awesome. So we do have a couple questions that have come through, it looks like here. So make sure that mic comes through. Cool. Awesome. When you do those transitions, sometimes things break. Awesome. So I guess starting off, looks like Emeka, you had asked the MCP server has to be connected with a specific LLM like GPT, Anthropic, Claude. Perfect. Yeah, so the way that this will work is that you'll have your client, and your client will typically it'll use that agent, as we had seen in the N8N example, where we have that message. Then the agent actually interprets it. We decide on that model on the memory, and then it connects to the server, and that's how that works there. Hope that answers it for you. But go ahead and ask all your questions in the chat. Any follow-ups or anything else like that as well. When operating within the SOP, is it reading the raw SOP or an alternative version tailored for the AI agent? Great question. I think in the deeper dive video that you'll be able to see actually how it's presented. But our SOPs, it's actually natural language. We wrote it out just like a human would. And so it makes it really easy. We even put step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3, do this. So you could say it's tailored for the AI agent, but it works both ways for a human and an AI agent. Can we mix the AI-powered chatbot with the real person support? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, combining the two, we've seen that before for sure. The AI agent, the flow as it works with the MCP server, it's going to be doing things that we're explaining or we're telling it to do. And in certain cases, you might say, hey, after a particular point, let's go ahead and pass this over to an actual person to help facilitate the rest of whatever it may be. It's going to depend on, I guess, the way that you're instructing your agent to operate. But absolutely, you could create a tool that then notifies, and in the way that we had in our example, where it notifies the host that a particular thing happened. The same concept could apply where once you get to a particular point in your workflow, you can then notify a human. That human can take over.
And that pattern is specifically called human in the loop, where it'll stop the flow at a certain point and wait for some human intervention. Just to clarify that.
Awesome.
So it looks like we have another. Can we create an agent inside Xano without using N8N? Yes, you can definitely do that. We've actually created some videos on how you would do that. If you wouldn't mind, Chris, we have Chris Coleman behind the scenes helping us. Chris, could you drop that in the chat for general automation?
The best practice for securing this connection between N8N and Xano's MCP server? Fantastic question, especially when dealing with security. There's a couple different ways that you could approach this. Of course, the basics, like we want to make sure we're on an SSL, HTTPS for secure transfer. But then also there's the point where you have users that are going to require user authentication and things of that nature. Where in the second video, we will actually go into a deeper dive on how we actually accomplish this, as well as with that security webinar. But what I'd say is that N8N allows us to be able to pass particular metadatas through their actual chat. And that's what we leverage. So we're ensuring that we're passing in that authentication token. There's also additional security measures you can implement depending on how, I guess, intricate you want to get, where you could potentially hash secret key or hash keys together and then compare those on N8N's end. A couple different ways, but yeah, I'm excited to actually show you in the upcoming video how we actually secured it.
Looks like we have another question. Is it possible to create the workflow you showed with a self-hosted LLM like DeepSeek? Yes, you can definitely do that. So there's a couple of different ways where you can self-host LLMs in open source models like Hugging Face, and there's all kinds of wrappers for that. You can even host it on Xano inside your secure infrastructure that we offer using our microservices, which is a sidecar Docker container, and host it there. And then you'd call it directly within the agent API call that you develop for the MCP client. So if you watch that video that Chris dropped in the chat, that'll show you exactly how you would do that. Oh, and he also just linked the microservices documentation. So yeah, those two resources will be super valuable for you if you want to go that route, which I highly recommend for any kind of secure processing of people's information, or if there's any kind of information that you don't want to leak to third-party LLM providers.
Do you have to train it at all? In our case, no, we didn't do any training. It was just a plug and play, actually. We selected the model, and then it determined what to do based off of the SOPs and all of those, sort of like instructions we had provided it, including like the tooling instructions, which I guess, to some degree is training it, telling it what to do, but not in the actual sense of training it. We did not train it.
Amika has a great question. Can this be incorporated into Xano connected mobile app? Yes, 100%. There's actually, if you're kind of following the bleeding edge of AI and MCPs, so many people are exploring and experimenting with building mobile MCP clients because a lot of people are finding value in being able to interact with agents and their MCP servers directly from their phone, so they don't have to be at their computer or remotely connect. So yes, great question, Amika.
Awesome. Fantastic. Looks like we're coming up to the end of our questions. So go ahead, and if you have any more, put them in the chat. Of course, you can always reach out to us within the community, within your instance as well, through the support chat. We'd love to be able to answer anything about any of what we're talking about here today. We also want to let you guys know that on June 25th, we have a very special announcement. So we really want you to pay attention. It's going to be something that you won't want to miss. Cool things are definitely coming June 25th. Make sure that we mark that in our calendars. But it's been a genuine pleasure being able to host this and talk about all things MCP. And we're excited to be able to also show you in the future upcoming the security aspect. Take a little bit of a deeper look into how we can secure everything. It looks like we have another question coming through. Instead of a chatbot, can we do this with a vocal chat, like on the phone? Daniel, I'd like to pass this to you.
Yeah, for sure. You would definitely be able to do that. There's a couple of third-party API services that make this really easy. I highly recommend hopping on the Xano community forum because this has been a hot topic over the last few months, and people have given examples of how to build this out. And yeah, I highly recommend taking that approach. It's my preferred method of communicating with agents or inputting any of my prompts. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for tuning in. We definitely appreciate you guys showing up and asking these questions, for tuning in and just learning more about MCP and what Xano can do. And well, couldn't do anything without you. So until next time, thanks so much, and we'll see you again for the next security webinar that's coming up. Awesome.
Bye, everyone.